All right, welcome back to another episode of the Orange Ball Podcast. This is a special episode, episode 20. As always, Sam along with Brendan, and we're in a little different setup today as usual. We got the Zoom going. Brendan, you went home for a little bit.
Yeah, back in the great state of Washington and just hanging at home. But we had to get a couple episodes in, and you got a lot of stuff going on. We got the it's a great time when you wake up and there's college basketball on. I love it. I love the all day hoops, and a lot of watched a lot of basketball the last couple of days with the kind of mid majors going at it, fighting for bids, and now we're in the thick of it right now.
Yes, sir. We're recording this on a Thursday afternoon. We're right in the middle of prime conference tournament season. I mean, I got three games going on. It's hard to keep track of everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, what I mean today, just kind of some big news already. We had Duke versus Georgia Tech, kind of an early slot, and the big story: Cooper Flagg goes down with a rolled ankle. Like we don't know what his future is going to be. What do you think about that for Duke moving forward? Obviously in the ACC, but also in the NCAA tournament as well.
Yeah, I think I know Shire came out and said that, you know, X-rays were negative and all that, so that's good news. But I think if you're Duke, you kind of consider, um, I mean, the ACC tournaments, whatever. You got to get Cooper Flag healthy to win a national championship, and so obviously they're gonna. I mean, they won today. Still, we're probably seemed a little shell shocked after he Flag goes down, and Georgia Tech's not a great team, so they were able to win that game anyway. But yeah, I would assume he's done for the rest of the conference tournament, and then you just got to get him healthy by even if I hate to say this because it's not a given anymore, but I think maybe you could even afford Duke probably is locked into a one seed that you could afford to rest him that Thursday or Friday they play.
Yeah, I saw kind of a tweet like if Cooper Flag ends up missing the rest of the year, if it's that bad, will the committee college football playoff them like they did with Florida State and their quarterback getting injured?
Yeah, I mean the problem is they're still a really good team, but I mean um, they need to get out of that. They need to just get out of this ACC tournament kind of healthy with everyone else. And um, I expect him not to play the rest of the week, which is only a couple more games anyway. But if you can afford to still win the ACC, it's not a great league anyway. Um, then all power to Duke, but I think he'll be done for the rest of the week. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of done for that first round game against a 16.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, at the end of the day, they're still the Duke Blue Devils, and they got tons of talent. So they should have they should have no trouble at least advancing to the ACC tournament and possibly even winning it without him. But
Yeah, yeah,
we'll see about that. I mean, obviously, we got a lot of things going on right now. The Mountain West just tipped off. We got New Mexico, San Jose State. I believe that
yeah.
they were up like 13 when I last checked. But
That's a weird game right now too. Just the whole year, that's been kind of a weird matchup for New Mexico. And sometimes you see that in college basketball where there's a team that's not great by any means, but um, that just matches up well against a really good team, and that's what San Jose has been. But Dan hit like a really deep three to end the half, and I think that was a big shot, sending him kind of into the second half too. So expecting Mexico to roll in that game as well.
yeah, I mean, I could see them just pulling away here pretty soon. They're up 12, so they're already up a little bit. But next game, we got kind of our game of the day is Boise State, San Diego State at the 4-5. Uh,
Yeah.
I believe this morning Boise State was 2.5 point favorites, which to a lot of people is kind of surprising. what are your kind of keys to the game for each team, or how do you see the game going?
Yeah, I think that line probably has a lot to do with the uncertainty of Guath. He's just a game wrecker, and especially for Boise State, he's been kind of we've watched both those games, and I think he blocked, they had 10 blocks in their game down in San Diego. I think that was a game that, it's a tough matchup for Boise State, but it's two teams that, San Diego State's kind of on the bubble as well. And if we know the Mountain West basketball on Selection Sunday, you don't know. And so both teams kind of would like to win this game. Boise State definitely. I mean, they have to win, but San Diego State, if they lose today, they might be a little nervous on Sunday.
Yeah, I feel like you have to give at least a few teams different, or you have to expect you're going to be a few teams behind of what the projections are kind of showing now, just because of what happened last year. Like Boise State, we thought we were easily in the field and end up being in the last four. So, yeah, I mean, you're right with San Diego State. I would, if they lose this game, they're going to get a little nervous for sure. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, and especially with these other teams on the bubble that maybe are winning in their conference tournaments, and the committee may value those wins more over just a loss, even if they're
Yeah,
behind. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting come Sunday.
yeah, it's a and then we got the other two games in Vegas too with Nevada and Colorado State. I expect Colorado State to keep rolling, and then Utah State and UNLV. It's kind of one of those matchups too that's been a little weird. But I expect kind of the favorites in those two games to win. Um, but yeah, that 4-5 matchup is really interesting, and I it's two teams that really need the win. I think San Diego State, if they win, they can kind of expect they're in the field, and then like you were saying, but you never know, especially with how last year went, and teams that thought they were kind of firmly in end up being the last team in the dance. So we'll see. I'm interested to watch that game. We're obviously intrigued by the matchup, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, Mountain West basketball is always fun. I expect I expect Utah State to pull away against UNLV. It might be close for a little bit, but I expect them to pull away. Also, Colorado State's rolling right now, so I expect them to win by 10 or so against Nevada. So,
Yeah, UNLV on their home floor, I get it, but it hasn't really historically been anything for them. They struggled yesterday against Air Force, and um, yeah, I don't know. They have no Dedon Thomas, no Rishwain's out for the year too. That's just that's brutal. Those are their two guys, and they have some guys that can step up, but I expect Utah State to win that. Going back though to in Vegas a couple nights ago, I want to get your thoughts on this because Gonzaga St. Mary's, I I think Gonzaga winning that game kind of lifted them above the 8-9 range, which is good. I think there'll probably be a 7, maybe. But when that game ended, I kind of thought to myself, should I be worried about these two teams because they just can't shoot the 3-point shot, and it was ugly. And I think there was one made three, I want to say, between both of them. And that's something that makes me nervous about. St. Mary's is really good. Gonzaga is really good. But at some point, you got to put a couple threes in the bucket.
yeah, you're right. I think St. Mary's was 0 for 16 and Gonzaga was 1 for 15 or something like that. Or maybe it was the other way around, but yeah, that's you're gonna need to hit some threes to win in March, and I could definitely see of the two St. Mary's getting bounced first round, just like they did last year to GCU,
Yeah.
because I just don't think they're good, obviously, but playing in the WCC for 2 months and then getting into the NCAA tournament, it's just I feel like it's almost a disadvantage. That's why last year Gonzaga kind of did that thing with Kentucky where they in the middle of their conference season
And
played.
did they do that with UConn this year? Was that during this
Maybe
winter
it might have been early. I think it was
earlier?
December, so it might have been
But
like right early.
Yeah, if St. Mary's gets in that 5 seed again, like I don't know how much comp like they obviously have the pieces and Saxon and Marshallonis and like player of the year in the conference, but like I mean, you got to be able to hit a 3-point shot, especially in the NCAA tournament, and maybe they do, but honestly, both teams after watching that, I was kind of like, oh man, like I don't know. Gonzaga's made the Sweet 16 for years in a row now, and they're probably going to be a 7 or an 8. So you're looking at a game against a 2 seed or a 1 seed in the next round if they get by, and I'm like, I, I think they could probably get by a team, that's matched up to them, and depending on the matchup in the 8-9 or a 7-10, but in that next round, it just kind of worries me. And even in the first round for St. Mary's against a if they get matched up with like a Drake or something like that in a 5-12, I don't have like as much confidence, even though both those teams, you know, you make it to the West Coast Conference Finals, you win one game when you're those two teams. Like you can't really take away a lot from that conference tournament. It's like it's hard for we saw like Pepperdine go on a little bit of a run in it, but like when St. Mary's and Gonzaga play in that conference tournament and that championship, it's almost like it's kind of just like a weekend, like a Friday, Sunday, or Thursday, Saturday type weekend for a team where it's like you're not really in a tournament environment as much, winning one game and then you're in the championship. So I don't know how much to take away from that, but yeah, I came away from that game more nervous about those two teams that I should have. I felt like,
Yeah, and I think St. Mary's kind of style of play works really well against WCC teams, but kind of the rest of the country, it just, especially when you're playing these big athletic guys from maybe, like, I mean, GCU last year, they were super athletic. And then if you play some bottom feeder Power Five school this year that made it, it
yeah.
was like in the last four, and then, yeah, I don't know. You're right. I'm kind of nervous about them as well.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of saw that too, even in the games that they played all year. Like Graham Ike is a great big. He'll be kind of similar to what you'll see throughout the tournament with some of the bigs and maybe if they do land in an 8-9 matchup against a UConn or something like that. You never know. Like uh, that's what makes me nervous where they have the matchup and they play so slow and what kind of makes me just going back to it like St. Mary's was down like 6 maybe with like a minute to play. I can't remember the exact, but like teams that play slow all game when they've got to get a shot up, they're just like weaving offense and they burn 20 seconds off. It's like you got to be able to realize that, hey, we play slow for 39 minutes, but we're down by 5 with a minute to go. We got to get some shots up here.
Yeah.
And they kind of just burned some clock, turnover, and it led to like 2 buckets for Gonzaga that just the crowd got into it and it was game over. So, you know, we'll see. I'm excited to see where they both teams land matchup wise because they could match up really well with the opponent, and both teams could be Sweet 16 teams, or both teams could be first round exits. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see for sure. I pulled up the Lenardi's kind of bracketology going into today, and disclaimer: Lenardi isn't always the most precise in his projections, so take this with a grain of salt. But kind of that last four in territory for the bubble, we got Oklahoma, Indiana, Xavier, North Carolina. Right now, Xavier's down by two with 15 seconds left, so that would be if they lose that, they're probably sweating as well. And then North Carolina is down one to Wake Forest. Kind of, where do you see the bubble playing out? Like, do you? I mean, every bracketologist is kind of different. Who do you think? What teams should be worried right now, and what teams need to win?
I think the teams that have already lost are definitely. I think they're done with like Ohio State and lost that first round game, and then Indiana lost today and kind of a game where it was like win and probably in against Oregon and they lose that game by 13. I think they're out. As much as I'd like to see Woodson, you know, go to the NCAA tournament after he was basically canned, but um, I think those teams are out. As far as North Carolina, I think you got to win today against Wake because I don't think they're an NCAA tournament team, but if they win today, I think they get Duke. Without Flagg, I could see them, they just played last weekend. I could see them winning that game maybe.
But also,
They played Duke close.
like if you play Duke, that's pretty much a who cares if you lose? Like that's not going to
Yeah, if you
hurt you.
lose, it's not a bad loss by any means. Um, so I think Xavier if they lose because they got Marquette, who's a ranked opponent, be a quad one game. Like I think that's a game that you they probably push them, into either the first team in, one of those teams in, and but if both those teams lose, then a team like Boise State's got to be licking their chops, man, because the bubbles continuing to lose early in these conference tournaments, and I think if you're talking like from a committee standpoint, I think today is when they're really setting up the brackets after today. If you win on Saturday and Sunday, you win your conference tournament, you probably, there are a lot of the big leagues are playing that day. I think the Ivy plays that day, but like a lot of those teams are probably already in by Friday and they're kind of, there's a couple teams that are penciling in, but I think right now they're kind of shaping, you can't do a whole lot to your resume on a Saturday and Sunday during in the morning. So it's like I think today is when a lot of the committee is watching these teams like Carolina and seeing the Indianas and the Ohio States of the world who were firmly on the bubble lose yesterday and today. I think this is when you're going to start to see it's hard to gauge. I think bracketologists have a hard time with like today because there's a lot of movement, but then there's also a lot of like, all right, we're just going to put this team at this spot, and regardless of what they do the rest of the week, they're probably going to stick around there.
Yeah, I would agree. I would probably say like what 75%, 80% of teams already locked into a spot. I mean, we saw kind of what I think personally, like we saw this when us Boise State won. We had a good like regular season year, but then we won the Mountain West Championship back in 2022, and we were kind of surprised by we got the eighth seed. We thought we kind of got it a little bit higher, so it's interesting to see or know like at what point do the committee kind of stop taking into these Friday Saturday games into account. But that's more of a them question. We'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
But
And I get it. I get it. I mean, bracket comes out at like 3 West Coast time on Sunday, and you got teams playing at 11 that morning. Like, you can't do a whole lot of shuffling around with that case. But, I think, like you said, I think today and tomorrow are the big days to really, if you want to boost your resume, that's the time to do it. Because after that, you're either in the semifinal or the final, and you're probably locked in regardless of what you do there. Um, but it'll be yeah. I mean, there's the when the bubble continues to lose, you have to start shuffling teams around because I think those teams on the bubble that have lost, that's like three of them within the last 24 hours, and now you're kind of at a halt right now with that.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. What else we got on here?
I think I just watched them this morning, but a team that is just scorching is BYU, man.
Oh yeah,
My goodness, they are a legit contender. Obviously to win the Big 12, but to make a run in the NCAA tournament, like they are a fun team to watch, and I wouldn't want to be matched up with those guys. Like Richie Saunders is a really good basketball player. They're a fun team to watch. I know they beat Iowa State, who was a couple guys short, but like I mean, they're scoring 96 a game. They've won so many close games throughout the year. They're kind of a team that I'm looking at, depending on the matchup in the NCAA tournament, where I could see myself penciling them into maybe a Sweet 16 run.
Yeah, I agree. They have looked super good lately, and I watched that game this morning. I forgot his name, but the guy on Iowa State had like eight threes or something like that.
Yeah.
But they were just able to to keep going, and they beat Iowa State a couple weeks ago, and then they beat them again today. And yeah, you're right. They're super hot. But I would also say that once Iowa State gets there, Keyshawn Gilbert and the other guy back, that they're also a team to look out for. And in my opinion, I think especially once they get those key pieces back, they could also make a run as well.
Yeah, when they, I don't think they've really been fully healthy for a while, and Lipsy, is hurt too. Like when they're at their full strength, they are a Final Four type team. Like they are really, really good. So, yeah, I'm not writing those guys off at all. I just keep getting more impressed by this BYU squad. They're fun to watch, and they've won close games. I think they won in was that double overtime against Arizona a couple weeks ago, and like they're a fun team to watch, and if they're a team that could probably win a few games in the tournament for sure.
Yeah, kind of transition. And I had the opportunity to watch the Big Sky Championship last night. Something I love about kind of these smaller conferences that only get one team in. Like these guys are fighting for their lives. Like they're playing for everything, a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. And Montana ended up winning. It was a really good game. Montana fans were showing up. They were loud, and I think it's just a cool thing to witness. Even though, I mean, we went to the Eastern. Who they play? Sac State or no, NAU. They played NAU. We
Yeah.
went to that game, and there aren't a ton of people there, but it's still just a really cool venue to be at, and just being able to watch those smaller conferences that only get one team in.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think for that conference with the Big Sky, playing in Boise is a cool place because it's not a big arena that they play in. They play downtown, not on campus at Boise State, so it's only a I don't even know how many people, 3,500 seat arena down there. So it's even if it's not that many people, it gets pretty packed. And then even if you go low, low major conferences and stuff like when they played on campus it's pretty fun to watch too, where they have a home game for the, you know, trying to clinch an NCAA tournament bid. It's fun to watch those games because it's at the highest level in their conference, and you know, I always pay attention to those because it's the you seem like a genius when a team like that wins. You go, well, yeah, I just saw them last weekend. They play pretty fiery or whatever. Like, you watch a team like American, last night went in there. Like, you never know with these teams. Like, pay attention to these leagues because these are the teams that come out of nowhere. But if you're paying attention, like there's some good basketball at these low major conference tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Montana won game. I don't know if I don't think they could beat a one or two seed, but a team that might have a chance is McNeese. They just
Yeah.
won their the Southland Conference yesterday. I mean, Will Wade always kind of the last 2 years they've been really good for their conference, and they did lose to Gonzaga last year. But depending on what seed and who they match up with, that's also another team to look out for.
Yeah, if they're a 13, which maybe is a stretch, I don't know. Maybe 13 or 14. Like, I mean, Will Wade he will be coaching a Power Five school next year. I'm not obviously don't have any sources on that, but I know I know when he originally went to McNeese, he kind of told them I'm not going to look at any other jobs for 2 years. I just want to get back on my feet. Obviously, had the LSU whole ordeal thing, but then I think he'll probably be in the running for that like NC State job and those type of jobs. So he's a really good basketball coach, and he's got a really good team again this year. So um, yeah, they're depending on the matchup, yeah, there'll be a probably a pick that a lot of people will make, I'd imagine.
Yeah, also Minnesota fired their coach at like 2 a.m. last night. They released something
Yeah,
on Twitter, which was really
brutal.
weird, but that job's opening. And I know another coach that people think is going to leave is Patino for New Mexico. They think probably he'll probably go somewhere. We
Yeah,
don't know, but
I mean, I don't know if he'll go to Minnesota because I think
yeah,
he was fired from there, but
yeah, not Minnesota,
Minnesota,
but
Minnesota, a guy to look out for is Nico Medved.
true.
Apparent, I think he's from there and went to Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if he took that job too. But yeah, Tino will be in a mix for, he'll be kind of one of those, candidates for pretty much any of those jobs, I would assume. And sucks for New Mexico because of the, conference changing and all that stuff. I think that's going to hurt him with losing Patino. I don't know if he would have jumped this year, but he's pretty open and candid about that kind of stuff, and that's what I do like about him. He's not like shying away from telling people that, yeah, I understand I'm a candidate. But he'll be right in there with the Will Wade and Wades of the world of any of those big jobs. I think that'll, and we'll see more, I'm sure, open up in the next couple of weeks as well.
Yeah. Another guy that came to mind I want to talk about is who entered the portal recently is Trayson Eaglestaff for North Dakota State. I mean, we saw when they played Alabama, he went off that game and then he scored the season high for NCAA basketball, 51 points the other night. And he's in the portal even though he says he's testing NBA waters, which I think he'll probably go to a Power 5. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah, he'll be he's probably the early number one portal guy right now. Obviously, it's not nowhere near full by any means, but I'd imagine there's a lot of schools reaching out while they're at their conference tournament right now trying to get him because he's just a scorer, man. He's pretty fun to watch, and he kind of yeah, obviously North Dakota and like you're not playing against the best of the best, but I think wherever he goes, he's just kind of one of those guys that I feel like no matter where he plays, he'll probably be able to score 18 to 22 a night. It just seems like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. He's a hell of a scorer, but yeah, he'll be portal season's always crazy.
Yeah. I guess the next thing is you know, we haven't talked until, since this, but like Auburn's dropped two or three going in the conference. What do you kind of make of Auburn right now? And we Baker Mazzara gets tossed from that game at home against Alabama. They end up losing. Um, I'm not sold that Alabama is really like a national championship caliber team. Maybe if they win the SEC tournament, I'll have a different mind of the, or mindset on that. But like, what do we kind of think going into the SEC? Because all this SEC tournament, but like all of a sudden, my kind of focus on maybe what was right in front of me the whole time is maybe might be one of the best teams in the country. That I mean, I've we've mentioned them before, but like now that Auburn's kind of lost a couple games, they've had a lot of close games in over this last month. I'm all of a sudden kind of leaning like maybe Florida is the team to beat going in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Florida's kind of been like they've always been in the top 5, but nobody's really talking about them. It's always Duke or Auburn, and Florida's just kind of sitting there sneakily. Maybe, yeah, you're right. Maybe one of the best teams in the country. We'll see what kind of happens with this SEC tournament, but yeah, you're right. I agree with you about Auburn. They just seem kind of like a wild card. Like some games they're the best team in the country, and then other games they got crazy things going on, like Baker Mazzara getting ejected, or they're just not playing well. And So we'll see. I mean, I think Auburn is going to come out on top for the SEC tournament. Just that's just my pick for them. But yeah, I mean, it would. I think I need to look at the bracket, but I would love to see a Auburn Alabama championship game. But let me pull up the see if they're
Yeah.
on the right
I mean,
side.
just while you pull that up, I I was listening to Mark Titus talk about this, but like, I mean, if you kind of think about it, and he kind of brought it up too, where it was like they've lost these 2 out of 3 games. Maybe they just obviously a rivalry game is one thing, and then but like if maybe it was right in front of us the whole time that they had won some games. I think they struggled. I can't remember. Maybe it was Vandy. Like they had some games where it was they were close. I think Mississippi State kept it close. Like they've won some close games against teams that aren't crazy. And this was kind of in a debate with Duke being the number one overall seed, which with Flagg, I don't know where they end up. I think Auburn would probably still be the number one overall seed, but like for as bad as the ACC is, I understand that, but like Duke has also handled everyone night in, night out, and it hasn't been really close. Clemson beat them, but like Auburn's had some close games and against teams that aren't necessarily the top of the SEC. We obviously understand the league is unbelievable, but like they haven't been as dominant as I think a lot of people have mentioned them. And so when you kind of look at it that way, that's when I kind of was like, oh, yeah, maybe it is maybe they aren't as dominant as people say, and maybe we need to see them be dominant in the SEC tournament to feel better. But I've almost, yeah, like I was saying earlier, I've almost kind of shifted my focus to Florida being maybe one of the best teams in the country and a national championship caliber team.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how like the seeding shapes up because I just looked. It's going to be Auburn. If if it goes chalk, it's going to be Auburn, Tennessee in the semis, and then Florida, Alabama, and then they meet up for the championship. So it's almost like we'll see who gets a one seed between like if Alabama wins the SEC, they might replace either Florida or Auburn for the one seed.
Yeah, yeah, it'll probably be. Are we looking at three SEC one seeds with Duke? I'm assuming that's what we're looking at. So, yeah, I mean, again, like we were saying too, I don't know how much change you can do. Um, I think with the SEC, it's probably easier because you could bump, in the NCAA tournament, the committee could bump, a two-seeded SEC team into a one or whatever. But I think Auburn's probably still gonna be the number one overall seed. You have to look at the they've obviously lost a couple of games, but you have to look at the totality of the season and uh they just have what 14, 15 quad one games. It might even be 16. I don't even know. Like you have to look at it that way too. I know they do that pretty well. So um I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be. But I just don't know, you know, with Baker Mazara as kind of a wild card in games, and we saw that last year against Yale where he got kicked out and they lose that game. Like he's a key piece of their team, and he's an older veteran guy, and he just has problems with keeping his head on straight sometimes.
Yeah, that is true, but it's gonna be a good finish to the season in these next few days.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at two, like um, St. John's looks like they're probably going to win the Big East. They
They
won big
should, yeah.
today, and yeah, they're out. Patino and everything's exciting too. So they'll be a tough team to beat in the NCAA tournament just because of how good defensively they are. They're not great on offense, but they're kind of like kind of that Houston mentality of win dogfights. But they can also smother teams that aren't good. That's what I think Houston does pretty well too. Is I don't see them losing to first or second round game, just because when they are better than teams, they will win, pretty handily, holding teams to 55 points or whatever.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, you got anything else?
I don't think. I guess the last thing is like we talked about kind of the teams that have already clinched. They're punched their ticket. I think teams to look out for. We talked about McNeese. That Omaha squad, man, they're good and
I would agree. I would
fun to
agree.
watch. And then we kind of talked about Drake. Like those are kind of my three um, teams that, depending on the matchup in the first round, could be a pick for me to make it maybe one or two games into the NCAA tournament. Just because I think they are all three of those teams are highly capable.
Yeah, I would totally agree on the Omaha as well, just because of their total trash can stuff
Yeah,
and their
that was
vibes. But yeah, I this year there's definitely gonna be a big upset. I mean, there is every year, but this year for sure, it just matters on whether it's the 2 seed or the 3 seed that loses.
yeah, absolutely. I think I don't I obviously don't think I think the one seeds are probably clear from the 16 catastrophe, but I mean you never know. I wouldn't put that on paper, but yeah, a three seed, a four seed. I there's some good mid majors that I think will earn some respect from the power conferences in this tournament.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you everybody for being out here for 20 episodes.
Yeah,
Can't believe we made it this far. If we're gonna keep going,
yeah, it's been awesome, man.
maybe we'll do a little short episode after the bracket release on Sunday,
Yeah,
just to
absolutely.
kind of
Yeah,
recap what happened. But
yeah, we'll
yeah,
definitely go over that. Maybe next weekend we'll do something or get something going during the first two rounds for sure.
yeah, for sure. Exciting times. I mean, it's the best time of year for college basketball. We got the first 4 games, I believe Monday, Tuesday, then the first round Thursday, Friday, and we're off from there. So stay tuned. We'll be back next week, and thanks for watching.
Thank you guys.